What's up, guys? I'm Steven.
I'm Will.
And this is the Post-Peak Chronicles.
So, Steven, what we got going on today?
Today, we have a very special guest, one of our friends from Victory Outreach San Diego, JR Macias. What's up, Junior?
Hey, how's it going, guys?
So,
Thanks for having me.
we want to hear your story today of what brings you here. So, tell us how everything came about in your life.
Okay. Well, first off, I just want to thank God for my salvation. God's really done a great work in my life, from breaking generational curses that I could look back and be like, wow. You know, from my grandfather being a alcoholic, a womanizer, to it enhancing to my dad becoming a gang member, a drug addict, alcoholic, coming to me, and I just made it to another level and went to prison for 6 years and, you know, loved the gang life, loved being a drug addict, loved being an alcoholic, you know, because it's all I knew. It was normal to me in my life. You know, I didn't know nothing else than to be a menace to society, basically. You know, and it wasn't until I got out of prison that, you know, God came into my life and gave me hope and a purpose, you know, led me to Victory Outreach San Diego, where God's really made me a man, you know, developed me and given me purpose.
Okay. Well, let's start at the beginning. How was your childhood?
My childhood, I grew up in a lifestyle of, our house was the party house. You know, my dad's friends all came over either after work or they came and partied on the weekend, but it was always a spot. By the time I was 6, 7 years old, I was already drinking. You know, I'd be the guy that runs beers back and forth. You know, I already knew what weed was. I already knew what drugs were, cocaine, crystal. I knew what all that was at a young age. You know, so it was familiar to me. It was something that my dad didn't hide from me. It was like, this is who we are.
All right.
You know, and I was at a young age, I just wanted to be like my dad and make him happy. So whatever, you know, made him happy, that's what I did.
So you said you had your first experience with crystal meth at 14. You said your dad gave it to you?
Yeah, it was one of those late nights where him and his friends were partying, and I was up running beers around. He said, come on, son, you're going to drive us around. You're going to drive us around. I need you to do this because we're going to be up all night. So I did it. We didn't question it or nothing. At first I did say, I don't do that. But he said, go ahead, you're going to do it today. So I went ahead, I did it, and then he said, here's a beer, it'll relax you. You know, and then, you know, like I said, I did whatever he said. You know, because I just wanted to make my dad happy. But,
All right.
you know, in the long run, if it wasn't for my dad, I wouldn't be where I'm here right now. Because it was him that actually broke the chains in our life. It was him that surrendered his life to God, and he got saved first, and he led the way. And I thank God for what he did in my dad's life, because it got passed down to me and my family.
That's cool. So it sounds like your childhood, well, the beginning of your childhood, 6, you said you got introduced to drugs, alcohol, things like that. So how did it progress?
So it progressed. To tell you the truth, I wanted to play baseball my whole life.
Okay.
That's all I wanted to do was play baseball. So I'd be out there sometimes playing by myself. That's just always like pretending I'm swinging a bat, pretending I'm throwing the ball. That's all I wanted to do. When I was about 13 years old, I was pitching. I was on the freshman baseball team, and I was pitching, and line drive came back up the middle and broke my arm.
Oh, man.
So instead of every day going to practice, I couldn't go on the field no more because my hand was broken. So I was hanging out with my friends. All my friends were part of gangs over there in East San Diego. That's where I grew up. They were all part of gangs, so I started hanging out with them. By the time my wrist healed, I was in love with the streets. I was already sold because it was already familiar to me, like I've mentioned.
Right.
You know, the activity and the drugs, and it was all familiar to me. And then when you get girls in the mix, it was like I was sold.
Right.
You know, the devil had me, basically. He had me, and I ran with it. So my dedication went from wanting to be a baseball player to wanting to be the best gang member I could possibly be.
Now, what does that entail? You said being the best gang member. We already know you're doing drugs. We already know you're drinking. What else is and women? What else comes with the drug lifestyle or the gang member lifestyle?
When you're out there, it's all about building a name for yourself. You know, when you're out there, it's all about you're the man. You know, you don't want to be known as the punk. You want to be known as the man. And I really think that the devil used me, in a lot of ways. Like now, God's using me to bring life to people, but I was taking lives, I was ruining people's lives, because I knew I had authority over them and I could tell them what to do. I could, hey, go do this, do that. And I look back and there was a lot of people's lives that I destroyed. And that's what brings me to the point now is that I want to be there to save lives. I know that the enemy used me, but I'm going to come back and take back more than what he's done in my life. I believe that God has a purpose for my life, and that's to reach those people that don't know the truth of what God can do in their life, his love and his mercy and his grace. And, I've seen a lot of my friends now, whenever they're going through stuff, they call me, hey, can you pray for me? Or they'll show up to the church because they know that there's hope. They're like, man, if they could do it for Junior, man, he could do it for me. Because that guy was wild, right? But, that's what God's all about. Because he uses the foolish things of the world to confound the wise. And I truly believe that whoever's watching this podcast, that God has a plan for your life. That you don't have to be the same person, that there's hope. You have a purpose. God has a plan for your life. If you live in San Diego area, come to Victory Outreach, ask for Junior. I'd love to help you, get a hold of God.
And that's what's up, man. So we on this journey right now. You was a kid, you was 6, you started gangbanging, you was 14. Did you see Juvenile Hall? Like what? We seen the progression of the man you are today, which is an incredible man. I think anybody listening or seeing this can see that you're an incredible man, and I've seen it firsthand. So, but let's see the progression of that man.
So, the closest I got to Juvenile Hall, got caught stealing a car when I was 16 years old. And they were like, if your parents don't come and get you by 8 o'clock, right?
Yeah.
We're going to take you in.
Right.
So I was there and I was nervous. I was scared. I'm not going to lie. I was nervous. First time I ever, got arrested. Luckily they came. It was like 7:55. Got me. But I was always known on the streets like I was pretty smart.
Right.
I was pretty smart. And I didn't do things spur of the moment. And so Juvenile Hall, I never saw it. I went straight to prison when I, first got arrested.
Let me ask you this question. So you're a wild child. You got arrested for stealing a car. You didn't go to Juvenile Hall. Obviously, your parents came and picked you up. We know your dad was struggling with substance abuse too. Obviously, it's out there that you're running the streets. What was your parents' reaction to what you were doing?
So my dad really didn't know I was a gang member for a little while. I remember the day that I first got jumped. I got home and they're watching a movie and somebody's getting jumped right there. And I'm like, man, I was just getting jumped right now. And I couldn't tell my dad. It was wasn't until like my dad started seeing my friends. He's like, what you really getting into? Coming on. And like I said, I got a good relationship with my dad. So I finally told him, and he said, if you're going to be in, then you got to go all the way in. I don't want you to be coming home crying that this happened, that happened. That's not how we get down. So if you're going to be down, you got to be down for real. So that just made me push even more, because I didn't want to let him down. I didn't want to let my dad down. And my dad passed like 4 years ago.
Sorry.
And it was heartbreaking, but I know that he's with God. That his life was worthy, that he did what he had to do when he was here, because he set the example, he set the tone. He set the tone for his family, for his legacy, because all of his kids now are doing good. And if you were to look back all those years before, that would have been like, his kids are no good. They're never going to be nothing. But all of us are successful now. And like I said, it's because he surrendered his life 20 years ago, I would say.
Okay. So you say you went to prison. You went straight to prison. How old was you when you went to prison?
25 years old, I went in. Luckily, I only went in for assault with a firearm. I went in, did 6 years in prison. Went through reception in Donovan. Went to Pleasant Valley for about a year and a half, and then did the rest of my 6 years in Folsom, Old Folsom.
Now, a lot of gang members say that they knew it was coming when they finally got put in prison, right? No shock, all right, this part of the lifestyle. Will said it, almost all of our guests are like, all right, it's about time. And that I just finally got caught? Were you completely expecting, like, this is the life I live, this is going to be the result eventually, I'm going to go to prison?
When you're on the streets and you're doing your thing, you know that's part of the game.
Yeah.
You know that's part of the game. Whenever you're doing something out there, there's always that chance. Like, back when I grew up in the 90s, it was a lot more crazier than it is now. Because it was popping. You know, there wasn't as many cops. People were hanging out on the streets a lot more. So every day when I woke up, I was like, is this the day I'm going to die? Or is this the day that I'm going to kill somebody? That's just how it was. That's just how it was. And it just slowly, just every day, it's like, when is it going to happen? When is it going to happen? So when it did happen, like I said, I was pretty smart. And when I did stuff, I always got away with it. But that day when that happened, usually I would have ran. I shot the gun to the ground. I usually would have ran, but I stayed right there. It was like I was tired. I was ready to just throw in the towel and just get it over with. Prison was in my future, and I had to go, and go through it. And that's how that all went down.
So now you're doing 6 years in prison. Now you told me earlier something amazing happened that kind of changed your family's course of direction and legacy while you were in prison.
Mm-hmm.
What happened?
So I ended up finding out that my dad really hit rock bottom. And somebody from Victory Outreach San Diego went up to him when he was living in Chicano Park, homeless, and said it was his time, that, God was calling on him. Took him to the men's home, rehabilitation that we have at Victory Outreach San Diego. And that has changed the trajectory of our family since. I think it was 2002 when that happened. He gave his life to the Lord, and about 6 family members have gone through the men's home or women's home, and all of them have changed their lives. And so it was so easy for me when I got out to make that adjustment, because I already seen God do a work in their life, and it was incredible to me.
So initially when you got out, you told me you didn't know your dad changed his life. And you said you tried to curse that when you first saw him.
Yeah.
If your dad did not change when you got out, would you have kept going down the trajectory you would have been on initially?
I believe 100%, because like I said, I always followed my dad. I always followed him. And to see God do something, a miracle in his life, to see a different light in him, it really opened my eyes. Like, shoot, if he could do it for him, maybe there is something else for me. Maybe... the world has something else than, just this gang member stuff and, slinging drugs. God definitely had something more, and I wanted to experience it, but I didn't know how yet.
Right.
Didn't know how until I really walked into the church house and surrendered my life.
Okay. So it sounds like when you came home, you still were in that same mindset. So while you was in there, was there any point where you saying, this isn't for me? Or were you just still consumed with that same mentality while you were in there?
It's funny because, like when I first met you, and I said, he didn't have none of the lingo or anything of somebody coming out of prison, but I had all the lingo, I had all the baggage on me, the chips on my shoulders. And I just wanted to get back out and catch up what I missed on the 6 years. I wasn't thinking about my life changing. I wasn't thinking about none of that stuff until I seen my dad, in a different light. Gave me hope. And that's why I'm here today, to give somebody hope that's out there today.
See, I think that's important, because a lot of people think that you have to change while you're in there, or that's when the change starts, and that's not necessary. Everybody's different. And for me, what I'm hearing is that, you had a negative mind state. You was gaming. You was all the way in from the street from when you was younger. You had that same mentality when you was in there, like, this is what it is. When I come home, I'm trying to get back what I lost. I'm not worried about anything else. But there was that point when you found your dad, and that was the catalyst for your change. So everybody has their own, and it's important to know that you don't have to, I'm not saying don't change while you're in there. That's not the message that I'm trying to preach, but I'm just saying, don't look at one person and think, oh, this is how I have to do it, because there's so many other ways to get it done.
Yeah. And it also goes to show you that, we talked about there's nothing happens in a vacuum. Your decisions can affect everyone else, right? Like your dad's decision has now affected the generations of his family. And I was telling you, and I've told Will this, like, if you've been to prison, there's a 93% chance your child's going to prison, right?
Yeah.
Your dad's lifestyle rubbed off on you when you went to prison, and if you didn't turn around, your kids would probably be in prison, right? I know so many people who went to prison, they've changed their life around, but because they were in prison when their kid was growing up, their kid's in prison now too, because that's all they know and all they've witnessed. But you've made this change, and your dad, just by simply turning his life around, ended up turning your life around, your kid's life around, hopefully his grandchildren's, right? Mm-hmm. In just generations to come. And people don't realize, when you clean up, when you sober up, when you change it, you can affect so many other people, right?
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. I thank God for what he did in my dad's life, because the generational curses are real. There are curses, but let me tell you that God could break those generational curses. And I truly believe that just because the way you grow up doesn't have to determine where you're going to go in life.
Right.
I truly believe in that. I truly do. And the focus for me is just, I look at my girls now, and I'm just happy that they could grow up in an environment that's not chaos.
Right.
That's just not chaos, And, prison really brought to light to me that there's so much wasted talent in prison. I mean, there's athletes in there. I mean, bona fide athletes that I could have at least got a free ride to college. There's people that could draw with the best of them. And it's just wasted talent in there. And there's, the COs in there. When I left prison, one of them said, "I'll see you in a couple months." My reaction was like, yeah, right. But he wasn't wrong. If I didn't change my life when I did, I was going right back.
Right.
Because I was doing exactly the same thing that I was doing. Maybe not as hard at first, because I still wanted to catch up. I was like, well, I don't want to go all the way in, because I just want to catch up on a little something that I was missing. But I was headed back, no doubt. If God wouldn't have got a hold of my life, I would have been part of the statistic, of somebody that gets out and goes right back. But now I'm part of the positive statistic. And it's all because of what God did in my life.
Definitely so. My question is, was it difficult? Now, let me just add something to that question. When I say was it difficult, to change your mentality, the way you've lived since you was a kid, you've seen this your entire life. You've been one way your entire life. And then all of a sudden, you're doing something different. Mm-hmm. So was that difficult for you? Like, tell us about that.
So, I would say it was very difficult, because, when you grow up around negativity, it's hard for you to see the positive. It really is. But when God breaks through in your heart, when he truly breaks through, it just opens up your mind. Like, you're used to seeing like this. And then all of a sudden, God breaks through your heart, and you're seeing everything now. You're seeing what happens behind your actions. You're seeing how many people that your actions could affect. And like I said, it was rough. It was rough, the transition. I remember I went to my friends and I told them, you know what, I'm going to give this God thing a chance. And their reaction was, don't come back then. Don't come back. So that made me say that, just like I always been, whatever I'm in, I'm all the way in. I had to be all the way in with God.
So obviously I know a lot of people, right? You now have given your life to Christ and you're trying to turn it around, but you've done a lot of bad in your life, right? Mm-hmm. And you have these friends that are like, hey, just don't come back. Yeah. Or, hey, whatever, dude, it's fake. Well, blah, blah, blah. I'm sure you got a lot of hate for it too, or a lot of, dude, I know who you really are.
Yeah.
Who are you fooling trying to be this good guy? Is there a lot of shame when you're trying to turn around your life, be this good person, when you've done so much bad in the past? You woke up, am I going to kill or be killed today? To, all right, I'm going to be this good man of upstanding character now. Is there a lot of shame or stuff that eats away at you? Obviously, you have people criticizing you. Mm-hmm. How did that look?
So that's just a lie of the enemy. He tries to put that shame in your life, so you can't move forward. He tries to put that shame and give you the remembrance of, come on, dude, you used to do this. Mm-hmm. How are you going to be this? Mm-hmm. But we serve a God of second chances. We serve a God that, could restore everything. you know, and I'm very blessed to say that, you know, he's restored me. He's restored me. You know, all those things I've done, they're in the past. You know, I don't look to the back. I look to the future. You know, and that's the mentality, the shift that we have to do. You know, because people coming out of prison, they want to look to the back. They want to look at their past. But it's time to shift that perspective and start seeing what the future has. Start seeing what the future has. And that's why I'm so excited on the things that our church does. You know, we do things, you know, to reach the gang member. We do things to reach, you know, the person coming out of prison. We do things like Run for Hope, where we go to the inner cities all around the world, South Africa, Europe, South America, you know, build churches to reach the inner cities of the world. You know, and it's things like that that can motivate you to do something great for God.
So now you've obviously changed your life around, gave your life to Jesus. How did Victory Outreach San Diego come about, and how did you get involved with that?
I was blessed when I got out. I had somewhere to go. A lot of people don't have nowhere to go when they come out of prison. I got to go with my mom and my brother, and they were already active members of Victory Outreach San Diego. So for the first few months, I just entertained them and would go every now and then, just so they get off my back, you know, be like, come to church. I'd be like, okay, I'll go. And a lot of times I'll be hungover or still coming down. And it wasn't until the founder of our church, Pastor Sonny Arganzoni Sr., she took me up to him and said, Pastor, you need to talk to him. And he looked at me, and I swear he could see everything I just did the night before or something. He looked at me and says, I don't care what you have done, just keep on coming. Because he knew God was going to grab a hold of my life and start doing something in it. And sure enough, 15 years later, I could say that, you know, I'm over a men's ministry in our church at Victory Outreach San Diego. And God's doing a great work in me and my family and the people that are around me.
So what is Victory Outreach San Diego?
Victory Outreach, we're a ministry that reaches the inner cities of the world. We're targeting, at first we were just targeting the gang members. That was our calling. Gang members, drug addicts. But we've evolved. And now we just reach everybody. You know, we reach the college student. We reach the person that, you know, that has it together, they think. But in reality, they're just dying inside. You know, Victory Outreach San Diego is a ministry that believes in the gospel, that believes in what God says that he's going to do it. You know, because the calling we have in our lives is irrevocable.
So, been kind of serious. So I just want to, you know, lighten it up a little bit, because I had the opportunity to come to Victory Outreach, and it was pretty cool. You know, so tell them about, I went Sunday night, and you had, elaborate for me, because you had the groups where they was teaching, and they separate from the men and women, and they teach these different classes. So it's a lot of fun that's going on over there. It's not just, you know, we serious right now. It's a serious situation. We got a lot going on. Group. It's not just they have a lot of stuff going on. It's a lot of fun. The singing is good. Like, tell us about it. You know, put a smile on somebody's face.
So basically, if we just concentrate on reaching the gang member, you know, that's all we're gonna do. But we want to reach the gang member, their families, and their children, and their children's children. You know what I mean? So we do have things like Sunday night. So this is our thing, Lions Breed, you know, because that's what we are. We're lions. You know, we have Lions Breed University on Sunday nights, to where we teach things like, you know, family and finances, family and relationships, things like that sometimes we forget, you know, because, hey, we're all family, but, hey, do we know how to take care of our finances? Do we know how to take care of our relationships? You know, stuff like that's so key. And if it's not being taught, you know, you overlook it, and you could get yourself into a little jam where it might make you feel down, be like, I'm not making it.
Right.
So we try to equip our people with as much stuff as we can so they can succeed for the future.
I was just going to, little side note, one of the things I love about the Post-P Chronicles, right, and you mentioned it, God's the God of second chances, right?
Yeah.
Will's got a second chance. Second chance
right?
Will. You've got a second chance. I've got a second chance. We've all got a second chance. And I love that this podcast is showing that with a second chance, what people can do, and society, even in the church. I've grown up in the church. You go to church, like, people are so quickly to shoot our wounded, right? Mm-hmm. They messed up, put them down, exile them, they're done, cancel them, whatever. Instead of like, hey, we all make mistakes. Mm-hmm. that's what we do as human beings.
Right.
Get up, grace, love, mercy, rehabilitate them along, and let's try this again, right? Instead of like, oh, let's lock him up and throw away the key. He made a mistake. And your life is just an amazing example of what a second chance can do. Because not only with your second chance, you as well, Will, are you taking full advantage of it, but you're using that second chance to help other people with their second chance. And I love seeing that.
Yeah. I mean, that's what really fuels me. It fuels me because I just think sometimes, you know, when I was 16 years old, I think you said you went to prison when you were 16, right?
17.
17 years old. You know, maybe if somebody like me would have went and talked to that 16-year-old that I was before, I wouldn't have had to go through all that, you know?
Definitely.
So that's what fuels me. That's what fuels me. Because I know I would have received it, you know? A man showing interest in me, trying to give me hope, you know, it might have went somewhere, you know, but I'm glad I went through it because now I do have the heart. Mm-hmm. Now I have the heart for that 16, 17-year-old, you know, that doesn't know where he's going, that just sees one path. And I truly believe, you know, God does everything for a reason. You know, he grew me and matured me for a reason. You know, I thank you guys for this platform. I really believe that through this platform right here that, you know, many people are going to get saved. You're next. You're next. You know, God's going to do something in your life. And I believe that, you know, whatever you've done in the past, that God's going to redeem it.
One thing that you said, you had your hands like this because you said the past is over here and this is where we're at. Yeah. But everything in between with your hands right here, that's your testimony. Mm-hmm. Everything in between that is your testimony. That's your story that you share with other people who are going through this, that haven't reached this end, that they're in the middle of it. Yeah. You know, and so the things that you've experienced, the things that Stephen has experienced, things that we all experience, our testimonies are how we help bring up everybody else to the other side of it.
Yeah, you know? I was just thinking what you were saying, and I know, you know, when I was a teenager, if an alpha male like Will walked in or you walked in, a bigger older guy, or like I noticed too when I walk into Juvenile Hall, you can hear a pin drop. Everyone's like, "Who's that guy?" And you know, I would have listened because if some guy that, you know, because obviously they're attracted to like sex, money, power, and you give the illusion of this confident alpha male, they're like, I want to be like that guy. What's his secret? And you can be like, guys, there's another way, right? And I've been where you've been. But let me show you the real secret. Right. And that's what it's all about. You know, you guys reaching the younger version of you. Mm-hmm. I'd listen to me if I was like 16 looking at me and like, oh, what's this guy have to say?
Definitely.
Yeah. I truly believe that, you know, God is so powerful that we can rely on him. We can rely on him. That I truly believe that no weapon formed against us shall prosper. That he truly is greater in us than anything of this world. You know, and like you said about the testimonies, you know, from here to there, you know, I meet so many people that are right here. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? I meet so many people, and that I could relate to that are right here. You know, and it brings me joy because I see that I'm where I need to be. Right. You know, whenever I feel like, you know, it's getting hard for me, I know I'm right where I want to be. You know, and that's what brings me joy. That's what makes me feel like, hey, I may be 46 years old, but I could reach the 17-year-old.
46.
You know, I may be 46 years old, but I could relate to this 30-year-old.
Yeah.
You know, I could relate to the 50-year-old. You know, God's given me that to be able to relate to these certain age groups. You know, and I'm blessed by being able to have that. And once you know that, I really feel like a man can learn how to be a man. You know, learn how to love, learn how to take care of your responsibilities. You know, learn how to, you know, keep a job. You know, learn how to provide. Once a man starts learning how to do that, then he can actually say that, you know, he's being a man, I feel.
Yeah, I once heard a sermon just talking about how guys are just grown boys that can shave now. They're not really men, right? Yeah. And, you know, in prison, how many actual men are there? They put on this alpha male personality and, you know, you got to do what you got to do. But how many of them are actually taking care of business and responsibility and being an actual man? Right. But the society and the world tells them that's what being a man is. Mm-hmm. But you just explained something completely opposite.
Right. Yeah. It's crazy because I know a few guys and they're so used to their prison life and they have everything together when they're in prison, but when they come out here, they can't make it. You know, because they're not equipped with the tools to succeed. Because they're still in that
destructive
theory,
mindset.
And I really feel like once you start getting equipped with the tools to succeed, then God could do anything.
And you guys do that at Victory Outreach.
Yes. This men's ministry that we started, that's what we focus on. We focus on, there's about a group of 5 or 6 of us, and we really, focus on the males within our church, and we try to let them know that, hey, we see you're not alone. God's doing something in your life. And little by little, they're starting to rise up. Men are rising up, and I really believe it's going to help the church, the community, and the world once all the men start rising up.
Man, it's amazing the things that you guys got going on. It's definitely amazing. And like I said, I've been to Victory Outreach, and I will be coming back.
That's right.
And I appreciate everything that you guys do. And like you said, you're reaching out to gang members, you're reaching out to people who need the help. And some people who don't even know they need the help. Like you said, you're reaching out to college students, people who think they got it all together.
Those are the hardest ones.
Those are the hardest ones because they think they know it all.
Yeah.
They think they have it together. But I don't do drugs. I don't drink. There's nothing wrong with me, but they need it.
Yeah.
And so I definitely appreciate that. I guess, man, one more time, you want to let us know what's going on in Victory Outreach, how they can reach you?
So you could, Victory Outreach, it's in San Diego, 4235 National Avenue, San Diego 92113. We got services Sunday, 9 a.m. and 11 a.m. Also on Wednesdays at 7 p.m. and Sunday nights, 6 p.m. Run for Hope. You click on the link, sponsor us. It's to reach the inner cities all around the world. And just know that God has a plan for you.
That's right. Man. So I'm Will.
This is Steven.
And this is the Post P Chronicles.